Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered how a simple Canadian 1-cent coin, the smallest piece of change, turned into a collector's treasure over time? What makes the 1972 penny worth hundreds, while another from 1978 hides a story of design and transformation? Why did the 1987 and 1993 coins mark turning points in Canada's minting history? And how did the 1998 and 2008 editions become the final whispers of an era before the penny disappeared forever? Stay tuned, because each year of the Canadian 1-cent carries its own secret, a hidden value, a unique design twist, and a story that might just be sitting in your pocket right now. The 1972 Canadian 1-cent coin, a tiny piece of copper that carries a massive story, remarkable history, and stunning value for those who recognize its true worth. The year 1972 marked a turning point for Canadian coinage. The country was growing, industries were expanding, and Canada's national pride was reflected in even the smallest coin, the humble 1 cent. What looked ordinary in change purses became, over time, one of the most collectible coins in Canadian history. Minted at the Royal Canadian Mint, this coin represented the enduring craftsmanship and precision Canada was known for. Each piece was struck with care, embodying both tradition and excellence, a small reminder of a country's dedication to detail. Back then, the 1 cent was made primarily of bronze, giving it that familiar reddish-brown glow. Though millions were minted, the years have been kind only to a select few. Those that survived in perfect, untouched condition have become some of the most desirable small coins in Canadian numismatic circles. Collectors across the world now seek the 1972 Canadian 1 cent for its purity of design, historical timing, and above all, its rarity in high-grade condition. What makes it so special is that finding one without scratches, wear, or dullness is almost impossible today. Each perfectly preserved coin tells a story of time standing still, a coin that never faced circulation, never lost its shine, and never fell into the hands of everyday commerce. These flawless survivors are what collectors dream of finding. And when one of these rare examples appears on the market, it doesn't stay unnoticed. In certified mint-state condition, the 1972 Canadian 1 cent can reach staggering prices, selling for $900 to $1,000, depending on its grade and brilliance. Exceptional proof-like versions, those struck with mirror-finish detail, have fetched even higher bids at auctions, revealing just how valuable this small copper piece can truly be. It's not just the coin, shine that captivates collectors. It's the feeling of holding a moment of Canadian history frozen in your hand. Each glimmer of the metal speaks of a time when the penny still mattered, when it carried both sentimental and economic weight. Over the years, this coin has become a symbol of patience and passion for coin hunters. It teaches us that greatness isn't always about size or metal. Sometimes it's about the story, the rarity, and the perseverance to find beauty where others see none. Those who own the 1972 Canadian 1 cent in top condition hold more than just a coin. They hold a piece of national heritage, a connection to Canada's proud minting legacy. And every collector knows the thrill of discovering one, the heart-stopping moment when you realize that what you thought was ordinary might actually be worth a small fortune. Across Canada, old jars, drawers, and collections still hide these silent treasures. And for those who take the time to look carefully, the reward can be nothing short of amazing. Because in today's collector's market, the 1972 Canadian 1 cent stands as proof that rarity and perfection can transform even the smallest denomination into a symbol of great value. This coin continues to inspire new generations of collectors. It's more than money, it's history, it's art, and it's the pride of an entire era sealed in copper. Imagine the excitement of finding one in brilliant mint condition, a penny that could be worth nearly $1,000, glimmering with the same glow it had the day it was struck. That's not just valuable, that's extraordinary. So the next time you come across an old Canadian penny, look closely. If it's dated 1972, it might just be your lucky find, a small piece of history that could reward you in ways you never imagined. Because the true beauty of the 1972 Canadian 1-cent coin lies not only in its design, but in its unexpected power to surprise, inspire, and remind us that every great treasure begins as something small. And as we move forward, the next chapter takes us to 1978, where Canada's 1-cent coin continued to evolve, carrying the legacy of its predecessors, while beginning a new story in the nation's minting history. A coin that quietly captured the spirit of Canada's late 1970s and went on to become one of the most eye-catching treasures for modern collectors. The late 1970s marked a transitional time in Canadian history, a time of artistic refinement, technological advancement, and national pride. Even the country's smallest coin carried that pride, gleaming with elegance and subtle detail that reflected both craftsmanship and identity. The 1978 Canadian 1-cent came to life at the Royal Canadian Mint, struck with precision and care to maintain the fine standards of the nation's currency. Though its denomination seemed small, its meaning was far greater, a symbol of Canada's endurance through changing times. This year's coin continued the proud tradition of Canadian minting excellence, but carried a fresh crispness in its striking. Many examples came out with remarkable detail, and a few stood above the rest, coins so flawless, they would one day become prized rarities. Collectors love the 1978 penny because it bridges two worlds: the classic design of earlier decades and the cleaner, more modern finish that defined the coming years. It represents both heritage and progress in one small circle of bronze. In circulation, millions of these coins were used daily across Canada, but only a small number escaped the wear and tear of commerce. Those rare survivors, kept safe and untouched, now hold incredible value. The true treasures among them are the mint-state specimens, preserved with their original copper shine and unbroken luster. These coins are like windows into the past, untouched by time. When one appears in pristine, certified condition, collectors rush to acquire it, and that demand drives the price ever higher. In today's market, a 1978 Canadian 1-cent coin in top mint condition can sell for as much as $800 to $1,000, depending on its sharpness, tone, and overall perfection. And the rarest proof-like versions, with their mirror surfaces and razor edges, can push beyond that mark, especially when graded by respected authorities and sealed in immaculate condition. But what makes the 1978 coin so special isn't only the money, it's the feeling of holding something that connects generations. Each gleaming cent tells the story of a Canada moving forward, yet holding fast to its heritage. Every collector who finds one in brilliant condition knows that they're not just owning a coin, they're preserving a piece of the nation's artistry and pride. This coin speaks of patience, discovery, and the thrill of uncovering something extraordinary in the most unexpected place. It shows us that even the smallest denomination can carry enormous value when it survives in perfect form. Across coin shows, auctions, and private collections, the 1978 penny continues to attract attention. Its consistent rise in demand reflects how appreciation for beauty and rarity never fades. The allure of the 1978 Canadian 1-cent lies in its simplicity. The way it captures a period of history so purely that collectors can feel that era through its shine. Owning one is more than a financial win. It's an emotional connection to a chapter of Canadian life, written in copper and preserved by time. For some, it's the first coin that sparks a lifelong passion for collecting. A reminder that even the smallest pieces of metal can hold stories that outlive generations. So if you find a 1978 Canadian 1-cent coin in exceptional condition, don't underestimate it. Examine its luster, its strike, its clarity, because that small, shining piece might just be worth around $1,000 in the right collector's hands. It's proof that history doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it whispers through the smallest treasures, and the 1978 penny whispers with pride, patience, and value. And as we move from this brilliant chapter to the next, the 1987 Canadian 1-cent coin continued that legacy, carrying forward the same spirit of craftsmanship, while introducing subtle changes that kept collectors' excitement alive. A coin born in a decade of transformation, innovation, and renewed national pride. The year 1987 marked a fascinating period in Canada's history. The nation was modernizing rapidly, yet its currency still held onto its classic symbols, small reminders of tradition in an age of change. And the 1-cent coin, though modest in value, reflected that balance between heritage and progress perfectly. The 1987 Canadian 1-cent was struck with precision at the Royal Canadian Mint, showcasing an elevated level of consistency and craftsmanship. While most circulated freely across the country, a few emerged with such extraordinary detail and shine that they became treasures in the world of numismatics. For collectors, 1987 represents more than a date. It's a chapter of perfection. Coins from this year that survived in untouched, original condition have become some of the most coveted copper pieces in Canadian currency. These coins gleam with deep, rich tones of bronze and display razor-sharp lines that reveal the mint's exacting standards. Each one is a miniature time capsule, preserving the artistry and precision of Canadian coin production in the late 20th century. Among the millions produced, only a handful were struck so perfectly that they retained their luster through the decades. And it's those few coins that collectors now chase with unrelenting passion. When certified at high mint grades, particularly MS66 or higher, these 1987 Canadian 1-cent coins can command prices of $900 to $1,000, proving once again that rarity and condition can turn the smallest coin into a remarkable investment. The mirror-like proof-like strikes from this year are especially mesmerizing. Under light, their surfaces shimmer with an almost glassy reflection, a quality that separates them from ordinary circulation pieces and elevates their appeal dramatically. But beyond the price tag, what makes this coin truly valuable is its symbolic significance. It embodies the spirit of a nation in transition, proud of its past, yet looking confidently toward its future. Each 1987 penny carries within it the echoes of an era, an economy on the rise, a mint mastering its art, and a people preserving their national identity in copper. Collectors often say that when you hold a flawless 1987 Canadian 1-cent, you don't just see a coin, you see perfection born of patience, precision, and pride. This coin's journey from ordinary chain to a collector's prize reminds us that value isn't always obvious at first glance. Sometimes it takes years, even decades, for the world to recognize true brilliance. And that's exactly what makes this coin so inspiring. It proves that something small, overlooked by many, can grow in worth and meaning over time, just like every great treasure in history. Across auctions, coin shows, and private sales, the 1987 Canadian 1-cent continues to shine brightly. Collectors compete fiercely to secure one in mint state condition, knowing that each pristine piece becomes rarer with every passing year. Its beauty, its craftsmanship, and its enduring appeal ensure that it will forever remain one of the most fascinating cents in Canada's numismatic story. So if you ever come across a 1987 Canadian penny, look closely, examine its surfaces, admire its luster, and you may just discover a $1,000 gem that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. This is more than a coin. It's a symbol of persistence, precision, and pride. A reminder that even the smallest pieces of history can carry the greatest value. And as we move from this shining chapter to the next, the 1993 Canadian 1-cent coin would continue the story, reflecting a changing world while keeping alive the artistry that made these coins timeless treasures. A period when Canada's coinage began to bridge the gap between tradition and modern minting technology. The 1993 Canadian 1-cent may look familiar at first glance, but beneath its simple copper surface lies a story of precision, scarcity, and hidden value that few collectors truly understand. By 1993, Canada had fully embraced modern production methods. The Royal Canadian Mint was at the height of its technical excellence, striking coins with sharper detail, more consistent luster, and cleaner edges than ever before. But in that pursuit of perfection, it also created unexpected rarities. The standard 1993 pennies were struck on bronze-plated zinc planchets, giving them that signature reddish-brown hue, a look that became a defining feature of 1990s Canadian cents. Yet, not all of them were made equal. A small number of 1993 coins left the mint with flawless surfaces, mirror-like brilliance, and perfectly centered designs, characteristics that today separate the valuable few from the countless millions. For collectors, those pristine examples are the holy grail. When professionally graded at MS-66 or higher, these 1993 Canadian 1-cent coins can fetch $800 to $1,000, depending on the intensity of their original shine and strike sharpness. But what makes 1993 especially fascinating is that it represents one of the last true mass-issue copper-colored pennies, before the Canadian Mint began shifting toward more cost-efficient materials and automated minting refinements in later years. This coin stands at a crossroads in Canadian monetary history, the final chapter of traditional copper tones before a new metallic era took hold. Each 1993 cent bears the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Dora de Patery Hunt, a portrait that captures both elegance and endurance. On the reverse, the iconic maple leaf twig continues to symbolize the unity and natural beauty of Canada, a design carried forward since 1937. It's this fusion of heritage and modernization that makes the 1993 edition so captivating. Every detail, from the smooth rim to the crisp relief of the maple leaves, speaks to a mint mastering both artistry and engineering. Yet the real treasure lies not in its appearance alone, but in its rarity in perfect form. Most 1993 pennies circulated heavily, picking up scratches and dulling over time, but those that escaped into storage or proof sets remain pristine relics of their era. Collectors prize these untouched examples for their deep luster and bold strike, qualities that reflect the peak of early 1990s minting craftsmanship. Under magnification, the texture of the maple leaf veins and Queen Elizabeth's portrait details shimmer with near-sculptural precision. And though countless Canadians handled this coin daily without a second thought, its true value would only reveal itself decades later, when numismatists began recognizing just how few survived in immaculate condition. Today, the 1993 Canadian 1-cent coin stands as both a symbol of national pride and a reminder of how quickly everyday currency can evolve from pocket change to a prized collectible. It bridges the old and the new, the warmth of traditional copper tones, and the precision of modern minting technology. So the next time you come across a 1993 penny, look closer. If its shine is pure, its details crisp, and its surface untouched, you might be holding a piece worth hundreds, a coin that silently witnessed Canada's transformation at the turn of a new era. And as we continue this journey through time, the story doesn't end here. The 1998 Canadian 1-cent coin would soon take the stage, carrying the legacy of the maple leaf forward while signaling the approach of the new millennium. A coin that quietly marked the end of an age and the dawn of something new. By 1998, the world had stepped into a digital frontier. But while technology was transforming everything around it, Canada's humble penny remained a familiar companion, still glimmering in copper tones, still carrying the beloved maple leaf design, and still echoing the legacy of a nation's craftsmanship. The 1998 Canadian 1 cent was not just another small coin. It represented stability in a rapidly modernizing economy. It was a symbol of continuity in a world that was rapidly letting go of the old and embracing the new. Minted by the Royal Canadian Mint, the 1998 penny was produced during a pivotal transition toward advanced production techniques. The mint was experimenting with efficiency, adjusting metal compositions, and refining the art of striking coins with near-perfect consistency. However, as with many transitional years, perfection doesn't always mean uniformity. Among the millions of coins produced that year, a handful stood out, exceptionally well-struck, mirror-polished, and deeply lustrous examples that now command the attention of serious collectors. These flawless 1998 cents, when graded at MS-67 or higher, can reach astonishing prices, often crossing the $1,200 mark, and in select cases, climbing even higher when accompanied by certification from premier grading services. What gives them such allure is not rarity of mintage, but rarity of preservation. Most 1998 pennies were used, tossed, and worn down through circulation, but those few that survived untouched remain among the most stunning representations of late 20th century Canadian minting. Every detail on these gems tells a story. The maple leaves, sharp and raised, gleam with natural precision. The Queen Elizabeth II portrait, designed by Dora de Patery Hunt, radiates a dignified realism, a design that, by 1998, had become instantly recognizable across the Commonwealth. Even the coin's metallic tone, a warm, reddish-copper glow, feels richer and more refined than in earlier years. It captures the artistry and dedication of the mint before the full transition to steel-based planchets in the early 2000s. Collectors often refer to 1998 as the last classic penny. It carries that nostalgic weight, the texture, color, and sound of the coin before modern alloys changed its character forever. In a sense, owning a pristine 1998 Canadian 1 cent is like holding a time capsule, a moment when Canada's smallest denomination still meant something tangible, and when craftsmanship still mattered deeply. For those lucky enough to possess one in perfect mint state, the reward goes far beyond its face value. Some collectors have sold top-graded specimens for $1,500 or more, particularly when certified and kept under perfect storage conditions. This value isn't just monetary, it's symbolic. It's a reflection of how something once considered ordinary can, over time, become extraordinary. The 1998 penny stands as a tribute to the closing years of a century that saw wars, peace, innovation, and evolution, all reflected through the smallest unit of its currency. As the new millennium approached, this coin quietly prepared to pass its legacy forward. It would soon be followed by the 2008 Canadian 1 cent, a coin struck in a world where the penny's days were already numbered. Yet its history, its beauty, and its hidden value were far from over. By 2008, whispers of discontinuation had already begun. The Royal Canadian Mint was facing the growing cost of producing a coin worth less than its manufacturing expense. And yet, despite the uncertainty, the 2008 Canadian penny carried forward the same pride and heritage that defined its predecessors. This wasn't just another year. The 2008 Canadian 1 cent stands as one of the final chapters in the story of the maple leaf penny, a piece of history struck in the shadow of its own farewell. At first glance, it seemed ordinary. The familiar maple leaf twig design on the reverse, and the mature portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse, created by artist Susanna Blunt. But hidden beneath its simple appearance lies a truth collectors can't ignore. 2008 produced some of the most stunning, high-quality scents of the modern era. The minting process had evolved dramatically by this time. The Royal Canadian Mint employed laser technology for dye preparation, resulting in coins with unmatched sharpness and detail. Every vein in the maple leaf, every strand of hair in the Queen's portrait was brought to life with precision never seen before. And among those millions of coins, a handful were struck so perfectly, preserved so immaculately, that today they are worth far more than anyone could have imagined back then. A flawless MS-68 graded 2008 Canadian 1-cent coin can command up to $2,000, especially when bearing the rich, lustrous tone and sharp relief that collectors crave. In proof-like or specimen condition, these coins become miniature masterpieces, the absolute pinnacle of modern minting beauty. But what truly makes 2008 special is not just its craftsmanship, it's its place in history. This was one of the last full-scale production years before the Royal Canadian Mint began winding down penny output altogether. In just a few short years, the penny would disappear from circulation forever. And when that happened, coins like the 2008 edition would no longer be just pocket change. They became symbols of nostalgia, pieces of the past frozen in copper. The 2008 penny represents the final brilliance before the curtain fell. It's the modern collector's connection to a century of minting excellence, a century that started in 1908 when Canada's first pennies were struck, and came full circle exactly 100 years later. That centennial symmetry makes the 2008 issue particularly poetic, a century between first and final glory. It is a bridge between eras, reminding us how something so small could carry so much national pride and history within its surface. The allure of the 2008 Canadian 1 cent lies not just in its market value, but in what it symbolizes: endurance, heritage, and transformation. To this day, collectors search rolls, drawers, and old jars hoping to find one untouched by circulation, a coin that gleams as brightly as the day it left the mint. And when they do, they're holding more than copper-plated steel. They're holding a story, the story of Canada's farewell to its most iconic coin. The 2008 Canadian penny may have been small in size, but in spirit and significance, it stands among the giants of Canadian numismatic history. So if you ever find one in mint condition, don't overlook it. That little coin could be worth $2,000, but its true worth lies in what it represents: the final heartbeat of a century-old legacy. Because after 2008, the world would soon bid farewell to the penny forever, but its legend and its hidden treasures would live on in the hands of collectors who know its true value.